Good evening, everyone. My name is Bruce Johnson, and I'm the Chief of the Coast Guard Auxiliary's Youth Programs Division. This evening, we'll be discussing the Standard Operating Procedure, or SOP, for the Auxiliary Sea Scout Youth Development Program, which the Coast Guard is calling AUXSCOUT. In the following workshop, we'll cover as much of the SOP as time permits, but there really is no way for us to cover everything in the next hour. We'll cover what's most important for everyone to know, but I strongly urge you to read through the SOP carefully. Please type your questions in the chat box if you have any, and we'll allow time at the end of this workshop to answer as many as time permits. This workshop will give you a brief introduction to the AUXSCOUT initiative. If you haven't already done so, please plan on attending the AUXSCOUT Workshop 102, titled Introduction to AUXSCOUT. Following the introduction, we'll do a deep dive into the AUXSCOUT SOP, and then at the end, we'll recap some of the most important points. Sea Scouting is the Boy Scouts of America's program open to older youth, ages 13 and have completed 8th grade through the age of 20, that is focused on nautical activities. It was founded in 1912 and is BSA's longest tenured older youth program. BSA's goal is to train youth in responsible citizenship, character development, and self-reliance through participation in a wide range of outdoor activities, educational programs, and at older age levels, career-oriented programs in partnership with community organizations. Sea Scouting has been open to both young men and young women since 1972. Its goals are to promote these objectives through instruction and practice in recreational boating safety, boating skills, and social and other events. It also promotes STEM education, leadership, community service, and life skills. These objectives, recreational boating safety, boating skills, and social events, should look very familiar to auxiliaries. The original MOA between the Boy Scouts and the auxiliary was developed in 2009. It was a very broadly worded agreement that provided a framework for the two groups to work together, with specific activities being conducted on a case-by-case basis. Each party collaborated in a broad range of projects that support recreational boating safety and promote citizenship training and character development, including public education programs, water safety educational outreach, facilities resource support, and volunteer support. More recently, the Auxiliary and the Boy Scouts of America signed a new MOA in 2018 that extends and strengthens the ties between the Auxiliary and the Sea Scouts. As a part of this MOA, the Auxiliary has adopted the Sea Scouts as its youth program. The objective is to integrate Sea Scout youth and adults, as well as Sea Scout ships, which are what their local units are called, into auxiliary shoreside and underway programs. Strengthening the ties between the two groups is mutually beneficial. A stronger relationship allows auxiliary flotillas and divisions to become Sea Scout ship chartered organizations or sponsors. This also provides the Sea Scout youth with a broader pool of adult leaders with seamanship skills and training and access to vessels. In addition, auxiliary programs will facilitate advanced science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, or STEM-oriented training. Now let's turn to the AUXSCOUT Standard Operating Procedure, or SOP, that was issued November 1st, 2019. The SOP outlines how specifically we should be working with Sea Scouts. This document was developed by the Chief Director's Office with the involvement of auxiliaries who participated in the pilot rollout this past year. Everything has been tested and it works. Although the SOP is particularly directed towards auxiliaries who are working with Sea Scout, much of the SOP also provides the ground rules for Sea Scouts who are interacting with the auxiliary and the Coast Guard. There are some overarching objectives outlined in the SOP. The Coast Guard wants to see us provide improved training opportunities to Sea Scouts. They want to introduce Sea Scouts, their parents, and their adult leaders to the Coast Guard via their recruiters, as well as to service and membership opportunities that come with auxiliary membership. The Coast Guard sees our working with the Sea Scouts as an important opportunity to push the recreational boating safety message to the general public, and in particular to younger members of the boating community. It's important to note that although the SOP makes several commitments to provide this support, it does not impose legally binding requirements on either the auxiliary or the Sea Scouts. As we implement the AUXSCOUT SOP, questions will inevitably come up. Take your questions to your district AUXSCOUT staff officer or members of the National Youth Program staff. In most cases, the SOP probably covers your question, but in a few cases there may be a need to adjust the language in the SOP. If that's the case, the DSOAS and the National Youth Programs Chief will develop a proposal to address your question. It's worth saying that some of the policy guidance in the SOP seems to contradict the current language in the auxiliary manual. The next edition of the auxiliary manual will include policy changes to reflect what is in the SOP. Now let's get to the details of the SOP by talking about who is covered. Some new and significant changes. Currently registered Sea Scouts who are at least 14 years old may apply for auxiliary membership. There are a few Sea Scouts who are under the age of 14, and they won't be able to apply for auxiliary membership until they've reached their 14th birthday. So in the meantime, they'll be able to benefit from working with the auxiliary, but they won't be able to apply for membership until their 14th birthday. And it's important to note that only Sea Scouts who are under the age of 17 are allowed to apply for membership. If a 15-year-old is interested in applying for auxiliary membership, they must become a Sea Scout first. Additionally, if a Sea Scout joins the auxiliary, they'll have to continue to be a Sea Scout until at least their 17th birthday. If they drop out of Sea Scouts before 17, they'll be disenrolled from the auxiliary within 3 months. All Sea Scouts or Sea Scout leaders participating with auxiliary programs, whether they're auxiliaries or not, are expected to abide by the AUXSCOUT SOP. Any Sea Scouts or leaders may attend auxiliary flotilla or division meetings or activities as our guests. Sea Scout youth must be accompanied by an adult. They don't have to be specifically invited. The SOP says that they are invited. That said, if a Sea Scout wants to come, they must have an adult accompanying them. Additionally, Sea Scouts and their leaders are encouraged to consider auxiliary membership, but they're not required to join the auxiliary. As has always been the case, auxiliaries are allowed to serve as BSA adult volunteer leaders. Many currently do, and we expect that even more will become adult Sea Scout leaders in the future. The other really big change is that auxiliary flotillas are allowed to and are encouraged to charter Sea Scout units, which are called ships. Each flotilla is allowed to charter a single ship, and each division is also allowed to charter a single ship, What this means is that in a division with, say, 5 flotillas, there could be as many as 6 ships chartered. While that's probably not very likely to happen, it is certainly a possibility. In terms of program oversight, the Auxiliaries National Youth Programs Division of the Human Resources Directorate, or H, is responsible for looking after AUXSCOUT. They're working directly with your DSO-AS and are there to provide direction and resources. They are responsible for implementing AUXSCOUT national policy. All auxiliarists are strongly encouraged to become familiar with what the MOA, that's the Memorandum of Agreement, and the SOP say, and get up to speed with the details of the AUXSCOUT program. Additionally, while not everybody is required to take BSA youth protection training, many are, and everyone is encouraged to complete YPT training. And we're going to talk more about that in a moment. This slide talks about what you should be doing if you interact directly with BSA youth members, not just Sea Scouts, but any youth who are under the age of 18 and members of the Boy Scouts of America. You should read and be thoroughly familiar with the Auxiliary Sea Scout MOA. You should read and be thoroughly familiar with the AUXSCOUT SOP. You must be complete and current with your auxiliary corps training, and you must successfully complete youth protection training. When completed, print out the completion certificate and give it to your flotilla commander. The FC will send it to your director of auxiliary so that that information can be entered into your AUX data record. The YPT training must be renewed every 24 months, which is the same as the requirement for any scout leader. The question that frequently comes up is, what do we mean by regular interaction with BSA youth? The rule of thumb is that you have any direct interaction, including face-to-face, telephone, email, or text, with a youth within a calendar year. That doesn't include simply teaching a state boater education course that's open to the general public. It also does not include Sea Scouts attending a flotilla or division meeting. It does, however, include having Sea Scouts on an OPFAC. Additionally, if your flotilla charters a Sea Scout ship, the SOP lists several positions that are required to have completed YPT training. If we have to boil down youth protection to a single statement, never put yourself in a position where you are interacting one-on-one with any BSA youth. Always employ two-deep leadership, which is to say there must be at least 2 adults present. It doesn't have to be an auxiliarist. A Sea Scout leader or a parent can be one of those adults. And when the activity is co-ed, which is to say there are youth of both genders, then the adult leadership must be of both genders. If the youth are of a single gender, then at least one of the adults must be of that gender. The reason why we are saying all of this is not just to protect the youth, this is also to protect us, to prevent the possibility of someone being falsely accused of doing something that did not occur. Returning to additional training, the SOP mentions a couple of situations that would require additional training. When Sea Scouts are involved in swimming-related activities associated with the Auxiliary Paddlecraft or AUXPAD program training, then at least one adult must hold the BSA Safe Swim Defense Training certification. This can be fulfilled by a Sea Scout leader, but it will be the responsibility of the auxiliarist mission commander to ensure that the training has been completed. Additionally, if Sea Scouts are involved in a mission involving an auxiliary surface facility, then at least one auxiliarist must hold a current BSA safety afloat and CPR training certifications prior to commencing the mission with Sea Scouts. Both BSA Safe Swim Defense and BSA Safety Afloat training are available online, and each takes less than an hour to complete. And I've already been asked the question that I know will come up: does the auxiliary track completion of that training? The answer is no, they do not, but it's up to the auxiliary mission commander to ensure that this training requirement has been satisfied. Now let's turn to what's involved in chartering a Sea Scout unit. As we've already noted, each flotilla and each division is allowed to charter a Sea Scout ship. While we don't expect that every flotilla and division will do this, we already know that many are interested in doing so. The Scouts have a procedure for completing this process from the scouting perspective. Any local Scout Council or Sea Scout leadership cadre can help you with that part of the process. What we'll talk about now is what the Coast Guard requires. The flotilla or division that wishes to charter a Sea Scout ship must request permission through their chain of leadership for authorization to charter a ship. The request can be done via email, and it should ultimately be addressed to your Director of Auxiliary or DIROCS. All adult leaders who will be registered with the ship must complete BSA Youth Protection Training. This also includes the unit commander, so if the chartered organization is a flotilla, that would be the flotilla commander, the vice commander, and the following staff officers: human resources, member training, and operations. The request must include the names of all of the prospective youth and adult members of the Sea Scout ship who will be registering with the Boy Scouts of America. It's very important that auxiliary units work with the Sea Scouts to follow Coast Guard policies. Also, you should work with the auxiliary and the Coast Guard public affairs assets to publicize what you're doing with the Sea Scouts. The Coast Guard sees this as a really important public outreach, and they want as many people to know about it as possible. As is the case with anything else we do, all auxiliaries involved in this effort must be current with their core training, and both ACT and youth protection training must be completed before assuming their office. If any other staff officer is working directly with the Sea Scouts in their official capacity, they must also complete YPT training. So, for example, if it would be required of the public affairs staff officer to take this training if they're working with the Sea Scouts to put on a boating safety booth at a local boat show. In that instance, the PA officer would need to complete youth protection training. The SOP mentions two types of consent forms that you should be aware of. The first is the parental consent form that's required of any Sea Scout under the age of 17 if they participate in an auxiliary activity other than a regular flotilla meeting or division meeting. The auxiliary mission leader is responsible for visually confirming that the forms are completed, signed, and present before any Sea Scout can participate. This next point, however, is very important. The auxiliary mission leader is not to retain these forms. They should be returned to the Sea Scout adult leader for their retention. Further, the auxiliary is not allowed to record any Sea Scout PII. Review this SOP carefully for the exact details of this requirement. The other form I want to briefly mention is the ANSC 7020 form, which is completed by all Sea Scout youth and adults whose images are recorded in any way. For example, if Sea Scouts will be photographed on a training patrol or at a safety at sea event, an ANSC 7020 Alpha form must be completed. Additional information about how these forms are to be handled is currently pending and will be publicized once the decision is made on how that is to be done. The Coast Guard is prepared to provide certain types of support for this effort. Sea Scouts who are auxiliaries are authorized to use Coast Guard training and recreation facilities. They can participate in Coast Guard cruises and air operations at the discretion of the commanding officer and with district commander approval. You should carefully review the SOP section 1.B.9 for specific instructions for Sea Scout auxiliaries under the age of 17 when visiting Coast Guard facilities. Now let's talk about what the SOP allows Sea Scouts and their leaders to do. Sea Scouts and Sea Scout leaders may participate in any auxiliary program to the extent authorized in the SOP. Sea Scouts and their leaders who are not enrolled in the auxiliary are welcome to attend auxiliary unit meetings as guests. Sea Scouts under 18 must be accompanied by a parent, guardian, or person in loco parentis, consisting of the BSA Youth Protection Training, consistent with the BSA Youth Protection Training. And what we mean by in loco parentis is that a responsible adult who is empowered to function as a parent in the absence of the youth's parent. Now let's take a moment to talk about what Sea Scouts who are auxiliaries can do. Sea Scouts under the age of 17 who enroll in the auxiliary may attend any auxiliary competency. That said, can train in any auxiliary competency. That said, for sea schools, they can only attend sea school sessions that are local to them. So, for example, if a Sea Scout lives in Annapolis and a Sea school were held in Baltimore, they would be able to attend. If, on the other hand, a Sea Scout lived in Annapolis and the sea school was in Miami, they would not be allowed to attend. Now this point is important for any auxiliarist involved in this effort. All Sea Scout related hours are to be reported. Auxiliarists who are not Sea Scout members should include a note that says enter operation code AUXSCO1 for AUXSCOUT activities only. Note that's only for AUXSCOUT related activities. For auxiliaries who are Sea Scout members, on the other hand, they should include a note on all of their forms that say enter operation code AUXSCO2. Note that that's different. For auxiliaries who are Sea Scout members, AUXSCO2 on all forms. Auxiliaries who are not Sea Scout members should put the code enter operation code AUXSCO1 only on the forms that relate to their working with the Sea Scouts. Unfortunately, there are some limitations for Sea Scout auxiliaries who are under the age of 17. Sea Scout auxiliaries under the age of 17 are not allowed to serve in any elected office. They are specifically permitted to serve as the FSOSR. Sea Scout auxiliaries under 17 may also serve as the CS, Communication Services, Public Affairs, PA, and Publications, PB, staff officers, but you have to request a waiver from your DIROCs. Consult section 2.B.2 of the SOP on page 9 for specific instructions for how to make that request. Here are some other instructions. As has already been the case, auxiliaries who perform vessel safety checks can do so on Sea Scout vessels and other BSA vessels or member vessels. So for example, I go to our local scout camp every year and do vessel safety checks on all of the vessels at the camp. The council appreciates that service, and of course my SOVE is very pleased with the number of VSCs I complete when I do that. This next point, on the other hand, is new. The auxiliary will provide Sea Scouts and other BSA members with RBS safety literature for distribution to Sea Scouts or the public. A good example of this is if a Sea Scout ship would like to distribute RBS literature to a scout show or at a boat ramp. If they want to do that, they request the literature from a local flotilla, which will order it for them. If it's available, the literature will be sent to the flotilla, which will in turn pass it along to the Sea Scouts. Another limitation for Sea Scout auxiliaries who are under the age of 17, they can qualify for boat crew and they can train for coxswain, but they cannot qualify as a coxswain or a personal watercraft operator or a paddlecraft operator, aircraft commander, first pilot, or co-pilot. The reasoning for this is that while the Coast Guard is comfortable with the idea of Sea Scouts under the age of 17 functioning in a boat crew capacity, they don't want Sea Scouts functioning as mission commanders. Other activities that are specifically covered by the SOP. Joint operations between auxiliary facilities and Sea Scout facilities are encouraged to promote professional development with appropriate authorization from Coast Guard order issuing authorities. So if you want to do this and the OPFAC is under orders, make sure that you include that in your request for orders when you enter it into AOM. The auxiliary will provide shoreside and underway training to Sea Scouts and other BSA members at auxiliary installations and on operational facilities belonging to or used by the auxiliary or the Coast Guard in a manner consistent with all Coast Guard, auxiliary, and BSA policies. Auxiliary mission leaders will ensure that all Sea Scouts and leaders are fully outfitted with PPE as required for the mission. We should encourage the Sea Scouts to bring their own PPE, but where it's inadequate for the mission, we should loan it to them for the time of the activity only. Additional instructions about AUXSCOUT activities. Auxiliary facilities with Sea Scouts aboard shall not be scheduled for search and rescue or SAR standby duty nor SAR response missions. If an OPFAC with Sea Scouts aboard must respond to a SAR incident, the Sea Scouts shall not be involved in the operation. They can be aboard if the mission commander feels that it is safe for them to be there. All auxiliary boat, air, and radio facility crews are expected to have strong mentoring skills and prior experience working with youth or younger trainees. The objective for having Sea Scouts aboard our facilities is for them to learn from us to help them to qualify for their Sea Scout rank requirements. Auxiliaries who are training Sea Scouts are expected to carefully read the information provided on AUXSB Wiki. And I'll provide you the web address of that at the end of this workshop. For any mission involving an auxiliary facility carrying Sea Scouts or leaders who are not auxiliaries, the order issuing authority must be made aware that the facility will be carrying them as guests. Provide the names of the Sea Scouts and leaders aboard, so when you request orders on AOM, make it known that you're planning on carrying Sea Scouts As guests, it is the order issuing authority's prerogative to say yes or no to that request. Now let's take a moment to talk about STEM, or science, technology, engineering, and mathematics training. Auxiliaries are authorized to provide STEM activities to Sea Scouts to supplement and not to supplant the Sea Scout rank requirements. STEM activities will only be performed if they're aligned with auxiliary training methods and materials. So, for example, something that would be STEM related might be teaching navigational skills. Additional STEM program support will be forthcoming from the Youth Programs Division in the coming months. We've received a number of questions about which uniform should be worn when working with Sea Scouts. Sea Scouts and their leaders who are not auxiliaries must wear the appropriate Sea Scout uniform when participating in auxiliary activities. Sea Scouts and leaders who are auxiliaries will wear the appropriate auxiliary uniform when they're assigned to duty and engaged in auxiliary activities. Sea Scout ribbons or insignia are not authorized for wear on auxiliary uniforms. Auxiliaries, on the other hand, who are Sea Scouts or Sea Scout leaders, will wear the appropriate Sea Scout uniform when engaged in Sea Scout activities when they are not assigned to auxiliary duty. You'll note that the Sea Scout uniform looks very similar to our ODU uniform. You should know, however, that this uniform is still fairly new to the Sea Scouts, and not all Sea Scout units have switched over to it. Many are still wearing the legacy uniform that is U.S. Navy uniform style. Over time, these legacy uniforms will be replaced by the dark blue uniform pictured here. Here's something that we should remember. Every Sea Scout ship is going to be different based on the geography, the types of boats they use, the support of the local boating community, the knowledge of their adults, and the interest of the Scouts. There's no one single right way to do it. However, the Sea Scout ship that looks right is one that gets young people out on the water, learning how to do it right, and having fun safely. Another point, some Sea Scout ships are already working with other groups that are providing strong support to them. Examples of this include the U.S. Power Squadrons or local yacht clubs. Where this is the case, respect that relationship and offer them whatever assistance they can use, but don't interfere with a relationship that's working well. Try to understand what the Scouts need and determine how you can fit into their program. Sea Scouting is our youth leadership development program. If your flotilla doesn't put anything into this relationship, they won't get anything out of it. A question that I would have for you listening into this workshop, how many flotillas in your district would be materially improved if they had more younger members? My guess is that most flotillas would benefit from that. Another question would be, would your flotillas be more effective talking to young people if they had the help of teenage Sea Scouts working with you? Remember that Sea Scouts are almost always the best and brightest in our communities. These are the young adults that we want to be working with. We want them to develop a positive impression of the Coast Guard and the auxiliary, and it will only happen if you make the effort. The more you invest, the greater the payoff. Here are some outcomes. Teenagers who are safe boaters. Teenagers who will be boaters for lifetime. Sea Scouts, their parents, and their leaders will build a positive opinion about the auxiliary and the Coast Guard. Sea Scouts, their parents, and their leaders who will consider joining the auxiliary. Sea Scouts who will consider a career in the Coast Guard. I think you'll agree that all of these are desirable outcomes. Now, here are a few resources that you need to be familiar with, and I'm not going to introduce them to you here because most of them are introduced in the What is AUXSCOUT workshop that I would urge you to take. On the other hand, I want to make you aware of this link, and for those who would benefit from looking at those links, please copy down this address, tinyurl.com, that's tinyurl.com/AUXSCOUT-links3. That's capital A, capital U, capital X, capital S, capital C, capital O, capital U, capital T, and then lowercase links and the numeral 3. So I'll give you a moment to copy that down. While that's happening, I'm going to start glancing at the chat box. I see that there have been a number of comments posted, and I'll see if I can't start from the top and working my way down. I have several people asking to be made the presenter. I would really prefer, if you have a question, to type your questions in the chat box. Now let's see. Okay, my flotilla is the farthest flotilla east in north central Texas, and we have ships that are within a 2-hour drive east of us. Could we possibly try to sponsor all 3 ships? Well, I think what you would want to do is to reach out to those ships and find out what their needs are. What we're finding works very well in our area. As I mentioned, I live in Annapolis, and there are quite a few Sea Scout ships in Maryland and Northern Virginia. In some cases, they are very strong and they really don't need our help, but in most cases they do. In one instance, a ship in Annapolis is sponsored by another group, but they formally partner with a nearby flotilla, and the flotilla provides ongoing training and some of the adult leadership for the ship. They are not the sponsor as such of that ship, but they feel a very strong bond between the two organizations. If your flotilla is really interested in chartering a ship, sponsoring a ship, I would suggest that you reach out to your DSO/AS and talk with him or her about that, and I'm sure that he'll be happy to put you in touch with the right people in the Sea Scout organization to make that happen. Let's see. The next question, if Sea Scouts are on board facilities, how do we record them for OIA at time of underway time? Let me see if I can translate that, restate that question. What you need to do if you want to have Sea Scouts aboard your OPVAC is to record that information in the notes field in your AOM order request. Now, I know that you'll be listing your coxswain and your crew as a part of the manning for the mission, but you're not going to be able to record the Sea Scouts in the same place that you recorded your coxswain and crew. They will only appear in the notes field in your orders. So you're not going to get reimbursed, for example, for any meals that you give to them. I think that answers your question. Let's see. Another question. Prior to the recent Sea Scout MOA, it was my understanding that the prior youth-focused group interacting with the auxiliary was the Navy Sea Cadets. What happened to that interaction and why? Well, it wasn't just the Sea Cadets. We've been working with all members of the Boy Scouts of America. We've also been working with the Girl Scouts. That interaction has not gone away. I can tell you that I've had the responsibility of working with the Sea Cadets for over 10 years. I know that they provide a very good program for their members. We have had no interaction from them on a national level in about 8 years. So I really can't tell you what happened, and we have no point of contact with their national leadership. We assume that they will reach out to us when they're interested in working with us. In the meantime, the focus of our efforts will be in working with the Sea Scouts. Let's see, next question. What about those auxiliary members who are BSA members? Should they use AUXSCO 01 or 02? I believe they should be using AUXSCO 02. I think the objective of that code is for Coast Guard headquarters to capture information about what material benefit the auxiliary is deriving from having BSA volunteers support the Coast Guard auxiliary. So I believe the SCO2 is the correct code to be using that. Let's see, I see another question. The operation code to use for hours cited as AUXSCOUT 1 and AUXSCOUT 2, and in the presentation it says AUXSCO 1 and AUXSCO 2. Which one is correct? It's AUXSCO 1 and AUXSCO 2. The reason why the change, the Chief Director's Office originally wanted to use AUXSCOUT 1 and AUXSCOUT 2, and what they discovered was that AUX data wouldn't support a code that had that many characters in it. So they shortened it from AUXSCOUT 1 to AUXSCO 1. That's just how that worked out. Let's see. Okay, the next question, what is the total number of BSA leaders needed to have our flotilla charter a ship? The minimum in most places is 5 adults and 5 youth. And one of the adult leader positions has to be a flotilla member. The position of chartered organization representative, or COR, has to be a member of the organization chartering the ship. So that one will have to be an auxiliarist. The other positions could be auxiliarists, or they could be people who are supporting the ship but are not auxiliary members. Let's see. I have a question. Where can I get more information about the workshop you referred to? All right, let me exit out of the presentation, if I can click on the right place. And here is AUXB Wiki. Now, in that handout that I referred you to, and I'll take you there right now, it's on this page, what training is available. And you'll see here's the workshop that we're doing right now, 201 AUXSCOUT Standard Operating Procedure Workshop. And I've included a link here, and I know for certain that my browser is not going to let it show, but let me get a browser that will let it show. Actually, we'll start up here. Copy that link. Okay. Sorry to be fumbling around, and I'll get another browser up. About a week ago, my Firefox browser decided that it didn't want to let me pull up any pop-ups. So I've been struggling with that ever since. Okay, so here's the same page using Microsoft Edge, and I'll click on it and it will take you to a page with the links that I've been talking about. And here's the link for AUXSCOUT Wiki. The address for AUXSCOUT Wiki is really long, and I really don't want you to have to deal with that address. So this is a much more manageable address, tinyurl.com/AUXSCOUT with the A, B, and W in AUXSCOUT Wiki capitalized. So that's where that is. And the page that I was just showing you lists the various workshops that we're holding for AUXSCOUT, and we have recorded both the 102 workshop, Introduction to AUXSCOUT, which is the auxiliary version. We have a similar workshop that we deliver to Sea Scout leaders, same title, but it has a little different focus, and that one has been recorded as well, and we have web link pages on that. And since we're here, let's just take a moment to look at AUXSCOUT Wiki. This has a general introduction to the program. It lists the staff members on my division staff who are responsible for providing support in the various divisions. There's a link to the MOA right here, a link to the SOP, and then an executive summary that the Coast Guard headquarters has put together on AUXSCOUT so that you know what the official position is on it. Here's a listing of upcoming workshops that we have scheduled. Next Sunday, we'll be doing a workshop on how to organize a Sea Scout ship. This is directed at flotillas and divisions interested in doing that. On December 2nd, we'll have a repeat on the AUXSCOUT 102 workshop, Introduction to AUXSCOUT. We'll be repeating this workshop and the other one later in December, and then in January we'll start working on some of the other topics that we have ready to go. We're just focusing on the most important ones in the near term. And then there are some links here to some of the questions that we've gotten most frequently. So for example, one of the questions that we've heard quite a bit is, what should my division be doing to get started? If I click on that link, it'll take you to a page. It doesn't have a lot of text here. It provides links to different training and other textual resources that you need to be aware of. There's a link to the BSA Youth Protection Training, what staff is available, and some other support, as well as resources that relate to the question that I just mentioned. So there's a lot of other information on AUXSCOUT Wiki that you should make yourself familiar with. Please do reach out to your district staff officer for AUXSCOUT. I will warn you ahead that while most of the districts now have somebody in that position, almost all of them are brand new to the job, so they're just learning it, and they will get answers back to you as quickly as they can, but they may not know the answer you're looking for right away. If something more urgent comes up, I would urge you to reach out to, if you're in Atlantic East, it would be Robin Pope. Atlantic West would be Bill Risa. And for the Pacific districts, it's Mike Bozarth. And if you're interested in organizing a Sea Scout ship, Bart Knapp he is a member of my staff and has organized a number of ships over the years, and he has a lot of real-world experience to bring to bear on that. Let's see. I have some more questions that have come in the last few minutes. Let's see. Okay, I've answered the question about where can I get more information. Does completion of these workshops need to be documented anywhere? No, they don't need to be documented. The Coast Guard is not tracking them. The only training that they're tracking is completion of youth protection training. So that will go on your records and you need to keep that current. But these other workshops, you're doing it to make yourself better prepared to be able to work with the scouts. Let's see, are there any 7029 reporting considerations? Well, I think we've already talked about the AUXSCOUT, AUXSCO 1 and SCO 2 codes. That's really it. If you are not a BSA member and you do some of your hours in a month that would be reported on a 7029 are Sea Scout related, that's going to have to go on a separate 7029 from the 7029 that you report all of your other things. And I apologize for that, but that's a reflection of the limitations of AUX data. I know that the folks who are working on resystemizing AUX data are aware of the need to be able to solve that, but the way AUX data works right now, that's what you're going to have to do. If you are a BSA member, then you just report all of your 7029 hours on a single 7029 for the month, and then you put that operations code down in the remarks field at the bottom of the bottom of the form. All right, do we have any more questions? We still have a couple of minutes, but I'll be happy to hang on for a moment.